to another episode of the Modern Manifestation Podcast. I'm your host, Bree Brown, a lettuce-hating, wine-loving, curses like a sailor, recovering perfectionist. Having thrived in a male-dominated, commission-based industry, I'm passionate about helping women boldly pursue their life goals. In this space, we build confidence with our mindset, manifestation, and spirituality. I believe that your life manifests as a result of who you are, not what you do, and that your personality creates your personal reality. Join this growing community to increase your net worth by increasing your self-worth. Now let's jump into today's topic. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Modern Manifestation Podcast after quite the hiatus. If you are tuning in right now listening, I just want to start by saying thank you, really honestly, thank you for sticking around, for pressing play, for giving me another chance to speak into your world. Today's episode is a little different. There's no catchy title, there's no strategy tips, no manifestation how-tos, or maybe even really uplifting messages. I guess we'll find out. It's just me showing up honestly talking about where I've been over the last year and why I've been quiet on this podcast for so long. And to be clear, this is not going to be a list of excuses. This is more so just a long overdue conversation with you guys. One that I have rewritten, re-recorded, and avoided more times than I'd like to admit for months, honestly. And because I want to make sure you know that I value your time, when this podcast episode finally does hit your device, that means that there's going to be at least 3 other episodes that are completely recorded, teed up, and ready to go, because the last thing I want you to do is to tune in and then just have me not show up for another 6 months. So if you are tuning in, just know that there will be episodes immediately following, and the generating of some of those ideas for those episodes are actually what helped bring me back. So let's start at the beginning. This was toward the end of 2023. I was really frustrated with work. I hit some resistance within my business and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. All I know is that I felt like I was just trying to make it in what felt like a dying industry. And I allowed myself to believe what so many people in commercial real estate were saying, that things were going to be rough for a while. There was this motto in our office that kept going around where everyone was saying, survive until 25. That was the slogan, really, that even some of the people I respect in the industry the most were saying. And so I couldn't help but fall prey to that mentality and to start believing it myself. And so at the start of 2024, that's when I'd realized that I'd fallen victim to that narrative, that negativity around me. I'd allowed myself to believe that so many things were outside of my control. And I forgot my own power. I forgot what it felt like to manifest the things that you want simply because of your energy and who you were being as a person, and less as a result of the external circumstances around you. It's so easy to forget that. And here I do all this internal work and believe that you can generate your own circumstances, that you can really control your success, your own narrative, and yet I was not. I slipped into a narrative that just didn't even feel right to me. So I had a heart-to-heart with both myself and my boss, and more on that latter conversation in a different discussion. But the conversation with myself went something like this. Just because so many people in this industry believe that it's never going to recover, that does not mean that it applies to me. I have the tools at my disposal, so use them, make them work for myself, and then let's go teach others how to do it also. And then I started off by journaling my ideal client. And I wrote down several things about what my ideal client would look like. And the thing that probably stuck out to me the most was one comment I made during this journal session that said, I am willing to let go of the clients that are not in alignment with my goals to create space for more abundance. I was thinking back through past lessons, past things that I'd read about creating space for the things that you want, and how sometimes we have to let go of things in order to receive. And then I got busy. I meditated, I visualized, I made cold calls, I got into the routine of someone who had a successful business. I thought through, what is everything I would tell someone else to do, and I'm going to go do that. And then I started winning clients left and right. It was awesome. And for a moment, I felt like all my hard work was paying off. And the clients that I won were so easy to work with. They were practically my dream clients. Like, they did not disagree with me. They just said, yes, whatever you think is best, let's go. They were so easy and so wonderful. And I was thrilled. It felt like it was working, and I could not wait to share this with you guys. I was like, this is great. I'm going to finish out the year strong, and then we're going to do a whole thing on this, and we're going to teach everyone how we did it. But then, as you could probably imagine, the rug was pulled out from under me, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all the things. And even though I had just won all of these new clients, I started losing what felt like more. I was fired by a client for the first time, then a week later, a second time, then a few weeks went by and a third, and so on. And it felt like I was starting to clients were just dropping like flies. It felt like every few days I was losing another client. It's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but that is how it felt mentally and emotionally. And I stopped keeping track of how many I lost over a 2-month period, but it was a lot. Definitely more than I had won at the time. And most of them left without any explanation, which is extremely frustrating because you always want to know, what could I have done, right? And so each one of these losses was just chipping away at my ego. And each time they gave me that generic, your services are just no longer needed, it started to feel a lot less like a business choice and more like a personal failure. And I was already feeling pretty low at the time, and you guys know that I deal with mental health struggles. And so I was struggling to sort of crawl out of this hole that I found myself in. And then there was a bigger bomb that was dropped. My largest client, who I have catered to over the years with pampered gloves, because not only do I love them, they're also extremely successful in growing and all the things. And I really value that relationship. And so really went above and beyond, honestly, for these guys. And then they dropped me also after a leadership change. I was gutted because I felt like I even did everything right for that particular client. Because I was already worried about the clients that I had lost, I really just hunkered down on that specific client and really was doing all the things. Like I was visualizing and journaling, and especially when it came to that client, I was like following up and just really trying to make sure that there wasn't any room for, or I guess I was just trying to keep myself from losing them as best I could. And even though I did, quote unquote, everything right, everything I would tell another to do, I lost him. When I lost that client after a series of losing all these others, I couldn't help but feel like it said something about me personally. Like there was a message for me in there about my capabilities, my self-worth. And so while I'm not proud to admit it, I spiraled into another experience with depression on and off. And here's the truth. I disappeared from this podcast. Honestly, I ghosted it because I felt like I didn't belong here anymore. I felt like a fraud. How could I show up and talk about manifestation, about spirituality, about alignment, when I felt like those things abandoned me? When I wasn't experiencing the success that I thought I could create, that I talk about being able to create. So this period of, what was like 3-4 months, it made me question everything that I believed in. My identity, my integrity, your valuable time, everything I built this podcast on. Like I started asking, was any of it real? Do I even have guides looking out for me? It sure as hell doesn't feel like it. Is all of this bullshit? Am I a fraud? How do I face my podcast listeners now? I can't even walk the talk. What does it make me if all of this was a lie? And if manifestation wasn't real, if alignment wasn't working, then who was I without it? And so as Brené Brown would say, I fell into a shame spiral. And I felt the need to, pretty much I had 2 options at that point. One, I was going to blow everything up and say the podcast is dead, it was all a lie, I'm sorry about the part I played in all this bullshit. I'm out, have a good life, I hope you learned something here. And then the other option was that I just wouldn't say anything, maybe ever. And of course, because I struggle with avoidant attachment styles, I chose the latter route, which is probably better, to be honest, in hindsight. And so I just disappeared. I ghosted my own podcast. And not only did I stop recording, but I stopped believing in my own story, my own advice, my own identity, everything that made up who I was. And that was probably a tougher struggle than losing all the clients, was just the existential crisis I was having of, well, what does this mean about me and who I am moving forward? Did I spend so much time, or have I invested so much time in something that is false? And so that gutted me. So I ghosted this podcast not because I didn't care, but because I care so much that the idea of coming back and having to say, I failed, And in doing so, I failed you, felt unbearable. I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. And so I simmered in shame, and every time I thought about the podcast, I got stressed. And I was like, there's no way. What do I even say? There's nothing I can say other than to end it all. And so I just didn't. I was afraid you'd see through me, afraid you'd stop trusting me, afraid you'd question the very thing I was asking myself. Was I ever the real deal? And here's what I've come to realize. When you are in the thick of pain and dealing with something, you usually can't see the full picture. We stop doing the right things. And when I started losing all these clients, I stopped paying attention to my business. I stopped playing the role of the CEO and the CFO, and I lost sight of what was happening at a macro level. Toward the end of last year, after all the heartbreak, confusion, the hiding, I finally sat down and looked at my numbers. And here's what I noticed. 2024 was one of my best years since 2019. After all that, I couldn't believe it. And all that time, I thought I was failing, and I was actually succeeding. I'd been so focused on the losses, so tunnel-visioned on what had gone wrong, that I completely missed everything that had gone right. And if I had taken my own advice and played the role of my own personal CEO and CFO, I would have seen the truth for what it was when it was happening. But I wasn't thinking like a leader. I was thinking like someone who believed the story that fear had written, that those in my industry had claimed. This is the period of survival, not thriving. And then, to top it all off, the biggest client that I lost, their deal died because of the market. And then the first client that I lost, they went to a building I would have never recommended because of my relationship with the landlord. So I simply wasn't the broker for them. And then the third client I lost, they're pulling out of the market altogether. And so they won't transact. And to this day, their broker is still working to try to get a deal done. But it's not looking good. And all of this reminded me of what I stated earlier in the year during my journaling session. I am willing to let go of the clients that are not in alignment with my goals to create space for more abundance. I was whining and having a bitch fit about getting exactly what I asked for. None of those clients I lost would have transacted with me. And honestly, they would have taken up a lot of my valuable time. So by losing them, that created space for more abundance, for the new clients that walked into my life that were so easy, that I love. So when I noticed this, I then felt ridiculous. I laughed at myself, but not in a good way, in a, oh God, this is so embarrassing kind of way, because I almost blew up my podcast and I allowed this to change how I felt about myself. And I let one chapter define my entire book in 2024. And I let a few setbacks convince me that I had nothing left to say to you. And I let my shame stop me from doing the thing I love doing. Teaching, talking about the things going on in my life, and relaying some information that I hope you find valuable. So that's what brings me back today. That's why this is the third time I'm recording this episode. The first two times, honestly, the first one was like super depressing, and I was like, cannot share that. The second version of this, it ended up being like 2 hours, and I was like, okay, we are rambling. We gotta tighten it up a bit. So this is the third version after 2 tries. And if there's one thing I promised you when I started this podcast, it's that I would always show up authentically. So there's not really a polished lesson here. I hope you can find some value in what I'm sharing, but there's definitely not a intended takeaway. The delivery of this is definitely not going to be perfect, but I hope in that sharing some of the shit I went through last year, that it might help you. If you're going through some shit, or if you are sometimes finding yourself in a moment where it feels like nothing's going right, maybe just take note from what happened to me and then ask yourself, okay, if we step back, we zoom out, we go to a macro level, are things actually that bad, or am I just like focused in right now on the negative? Am I having tunnel vision on the things that are going wrong when actually there's really so many more things that are going right? I never once did that, and that's why I ended up having the whole shame spiral that I fell into. So, because I don't want this podcast to just be like, here's what happened to me, I hope you guys stick around, I am going to leave you with some things that I am walking away with personally, and that is, 1, you can be deep in the work and still struggle, and still have to relearn lessons that you frankly thought you had already learned by now. 2, you can teach alignment and talk about manifestation and still get knocked off course. So even when you're trying your best to walk the talk, you can still trip. I need to work on my metaphors, but you get it. And then 3rd, you can believe in manifestation, in magic, and everything that goes with it, and then still go through seasons that just feel void of it, where you question everything. And that's okay. And honestly, I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy to question everything and to figure out what resonates with you and what doesn't. This podcast wasn't built on perfection. It was never meant to. It was built on honesty, on curiosity, on growth, on the desire to better myself and hopefully others in the process. And this past year, as hard as it was a focus on growth. And so I so appreciate everyone that's tuning in today, because it means that you stuck with me, and I'm so grateful for that. And I guess what I want to leave you with is that if you've ever questioned your worth based on one bad month, one bad client, one bad meeting, one bad decision, one bad day, whatever it is, I just want you to know, you are not alone. I see you. In a lot of ways, I am you. And we all go through this shit. Give yourself the grace to fuck up. And when you're ready, start over. And keep going after the things you want. So today I had to follow the advice of, I think it was Mel Robbins that had the 5-second rule, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And I just hit record. And I had to come back. I had to talk about what happened. And in doing so, I'm going to continue recording this afternoon so that I have several more that can be delivered to you guys. So stick around, because what's next is we have a lot of good topics. I'm actually really excited about some of the ideas that I have for future episodes. And while this episode marks my return, it's not just to the podcast, it's also to what I think is a newer, or I should say different version of myself, someone that knows themselves a bit further. I'm rebuilding from a deeper place. I've given myself some time to unpack what happened and to take lessons from that. And I feel like I've learned more about myself in the last year than I have in the last 5, and that's saying something, because I feel like I say that every 6 months. But I just feel like I've been on a nonstop Know Thyself tour. And hopefully by sharing some of the things that I've learned in future episodes, you might learn a little bit about yourself as well. And I think that the more we learn about ourselves, the more we're able to make intentional choices, and the better we're able to shape our lives into something that is meaningful for us. So we'll talk about some of those insights later on as well. All that to say is I'm excited to share this next version of myself with you, a chapter that honors both the shit show of a person I am, as well as the version of myself that's willing to improve, because manifestation isn't just about getting what you want. It's about becoming who you are meant to be. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is how can we get 0.1% better every day. So again, thank you guys so much for being here, for holding space, for not giving up on me. And even when I gave up on myself for a little while, thank you guys for still sticking around and choosing to show up. I still have so much more to say. We'll get to that in future episodes. There's so much more to explore and so many miracles left to manifest. So have a fantastic rest of your week. Y'all, I just forgot my tagline. Hold on. How do I end it normally? Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. Until then, go out there and manifest some miracles. There we go. There it is. All right, I'll do a little bit more seriously now. Thank y'all so much for tuning in with me today. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch y'all in the next episode. Until then, go out there and manifest some miracles. I hope y'all enjoyed today's episode. If you want to check out the show notes, head over to www.themodernmanifestation.com/blog. If you're loving this podcast, please drop me a review, share this episode with a loved one, and follow me on Instagram @modernmanifestation. I love y'all so much, and thanks for listening.